From the author of Spinsterella, the strange and unusual romance and spellbound, a darker shade of black comes the legendary Magic Tilda. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. I got a chance to take a look at the Black Panther trailer at the library yesterday, and I hoped to see something that would change my mind regarding this film. Unfortunately, I still haven't seen anything in this trailer that would impress me regarding this film. When it comes down to this Black Panther movie, it's not looking like a great film. It's looking like an average film. And the really sad thing about this Black Panther trailer is that it goes out of its way to try to tell us everything instead of show us everything. And that's what I'm seeing regarding this film's visuals, is that we're seeing them tell us about the Black Panther's world of Wakanda and not show us the Black Panther's world of Wakanda. And you can't do that in a film. You have to show, and then you have to show some more. And when it comes down to this film, the visuals in it just aren't very strong. You have this guy at the opening of the trailer, this white guy who's supposed to be so awed by all the things he's seeing that he says he's seen gods fall out of the sky. He's seen men make weapons that are beyond his imagination. But when he comes here, he's just so awestruck that he's never seen anything like this before. And he asks, "What are you hiding?" Well, I have to say this. You're not really hiding anything. All the visuals in this film are so average, they look like they come out of other, better films. And this is one of the big problems with this director as it relates to this film. Clearly, I see how this guy is so out of his depth. It's just not funny, because he takes most of his visuals from other movies and he takes most of his story from other movies. This entire film feels like a cut and paste from somebody going on another person's website, taking scenes that they like from other videos and films, and then cutting them and then pasting them into this movie. And it's really mediocre story, because I look at the story for this Black Panther movie, and from what they're presenting in the trailer, they pretty much presented the entire story for this movie in the trailer. And that story is so by the numbers, it's just sad. This is the story of T'Challa as he rises to the level of the king in his first days, and then he's challenged by Killmonger, who is the sellout Negro who was working with Ulysses Claw, and they're trying to overthrow him so that they can take over Wakanda and plunder all the resources. I'm sorry, that's just not a good enough story for me, especially after I've seen far superior films like 2008's Iron Man and 2010's Captain America. We can do way better than this. When I look at this Black Panther movie, it reminds me a lot of the CW's Black Lightning, where they just put a black superhero on screen and they tell us we're just supposed to be content with him being a black superhero. Again, I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. And what I saw on that screen was just substandard as related to fantasy filmmaking, and it's a real insult to black fantasy fans, because we can do way better than what was presented to us on this Black Panther trailer. Because what I saw in that trailer showed me that when it comes down to black fantasy, people are still stuck in 1997 right here in 2017, because what was presented in Black Panther was just about on the same level as 1997's Blade. And I'd like to think in 20 years we could have made some real serious leaps as it comes down to special effects, as it comes down to acting, as it comes down to set design, and as it comes down to storytelling. What I saw in this Black Panther trailer just was something like straight out of a 90s film, and that's saying something when it comes down to the level of Marvel Studios and how much they've raised the bar. When it comes down to their other films, like with their core heroes like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Avengers, they raised the bar to a high level. But when it comes down to Black Panther, they bring the bar down to a level even lower than Netflix's Luke Cage, because Netflix's Luke Cage was for the first 6 episodes was up there in terms of high quality. Black Panther's quality, as I see it, production wise, is lower than that of Netflix's Luke Cage, because Netflix's Luke Cage went out of its way to be creative, went out of its way to present something original and fresh from the source material. Black Panther looks, again, like it's cutting and pasting frames and visuals from 2008's Iron Man, 2010's Captain America, and even 1994's The Lion King into this film. And again, that's just not good enough for me. I want more as it relates to science fiction and fantasy films. I want to see people bring the A game when it comes down to science fiction and fantasy films. And when it comes down to black science fiction and fantasy films, I really want to see that A game brought to the table. Because if you're going to make something good, then really bring your A game to the table. Because I look at this film and I don't see the A game brought to the table. I see more of a C game brought to this table with this Black Panther. And that may be good for a lot of black science fiction and fantasy fans who just want to see a black character. But as a guy who writes science fiction and fantasy and knows about comic books and fantasy, again, I want to see more. I want to see more in terms of visuals. I want to see more in terms of story. I want to see a rich story. I want to see a bit more complex story. I want to see a bit more substance to the story, a bit more substance to the characterizations, a little bit more substance to the visuals. I want to see something that's unique, something that shows that this creator can come out of their own imagination and bring something to life. I want to see something that shows me that this creator has their own ideas when they come to the screen. I want to see their own thumbprint on a film, and I want to see their own vision on that screen. When I look at this Black Panther trailer, it's showing me a film that is made to fit some white person's vision of what Wakanda is like, and not something special and unique. When I look at somebody like James Cameron with the Terminator series, or Tim Burton, what he did with the first 2 Batman movies, that's where I see someone who has presented something visually distinct, visually original, and presented fresh ideas and fresh takes on screen. What I saw in your Black Panther trailer was something generic, flat, uninspired, and looked like somebody who was following the orders of Disney and not telling their own story. Everything there, again, felt like it was cut and pasted to fit some white person's idea of what black is, not present their own ideas. Yes, this is an adaptation of a Marvel comic story, but I wanted to see a little bit of somebody's fingerprints on it, like I did with Jon Favreau's Iron Man, and like what I saw with the Russo brothers, Captain America, Civil War. With those films, we saw them put their fingerprints on the film, even though it was a part of a larger cinematic universe. With this film, it feels generic, it feels average, and it feels like something out of the 90s, and it feels like something that has not really raised the bar in terms of quality. But it is par for the course as it relates to Marvel Studios right now, because Marvel Studios, as I've said in numerous videos, is a studio that's in crisis right now. They are really lost their game, they really have lost their direction, and they're not producing films on a high level of quality like they did before. This film is par for the course with everything after Luke Cage got shot with the Judas bullet on Netflix, showing me a real tumble in terms of quality at Marvel Studios. I mean, I look at it and I compare it to Spider-Man Homecoming, and it's still on the same jumbled, dysfunctional level of storytelling. It really does not have a good sense of Black Panther. It does not have a sense of his mission, and it does not really have a real heart to it in terms of being a film. It doesn't have a soul to it. It just feels bland, lifeless, generic, again, by the numbers, and it doesn't feel like something that comes together to tell you the story of T'Challa, and it doesn't really give you a reason to care. That was one of the big problems I had with this Black Panther trailer. I kept waiting for a reason to care. I kept waiting for something to come out of this film that would make me connect with it on a personal level, and it just felt like, again, something that was by the numbers. They were just telling me the story of the Black Panther, but they weren't showing me who the Black Panther is. I remember when I watched 2008's Iron Man, they showed me who Iron Man was. They showed me who Tony Stark was, and they pulled elements out of the David Michelin, Bob Layton comic books and brought them to life. When I look at the visuals for this film, I don't see anything coming out of Christopher Priest. I don't see anything coming out of Stan Lee. I don't see anything coming out of Jack Kirby on this film. I don't see their visual parts in it, and I don't see a visual imprint from the director of the Fruitvale Station. Again, no visual thumbprints, no feeling of anything distinct. Everything, again, feels cut and pasted from a bunch of other movies into this movie, and the story feels like something that comes straight out of an old blaxploitation movie, just updated for the 21st century. I really expected a lot more from Marvel Studios as related to what they consider their first superhero film featuring a black lead character, but when it came down at the end of the day, they just didn't really bring their very best to the table. As an African American fantasy writer, I go out of my way to bring my very best to the table, and I go out of my way to bring out the very best in fantasy, and I didn't see that on the screen of this film's trailer. I didn't see anything that would make me want to go out and say I want to go see this movie, because I remember seeing far superior trailers like Captain America Civil War and Thor Ragnarok, which made me look at the visuals and say, I want to go see this movie. With this film, I was left indifferent, and indifference is the kiss of death for a film's trailer if it doesn't present a strong enough story. Now, when it comes down to this film, I really, again, wasn't expecting much because it comes from Disney, and Disney is the producer of stuff like Scandal and The Mayor, certified minstrel shows, so I really wasn't expecting much, and I was hoping to see something that would change my mind, but still, I'm not impressed. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some SJS Direct fantasy titles like The Temptation of John Haynes, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.